Black power to the family out there. My name is Natural Tahuti, aka the son of Sekhmet, aka the seed of Kalamau, and other people know me as the bad boy of consciousness. Not bad because I'm bad, but just bad because I'm tough enough to do this job. You know, when you're doing this job, this is serious work here, man. We put our lives.
What it was to be a man. You were taught what your responsibility was to that woman. That woman was taught what her responsibility was to that man. But this no longer happens. Now what we have been adaptative to, we have learned from the European what a woman is. We have learned from the European, you would say, what a man is. We are looking at the European on his views and his insight on what we should do and how we should conduct
now, unlike any other time before. And yes, we have been going to war with Europeans since their appearance on the earth. However, we have not been living in a state of servitude where most of us have long since forgot that we are even in servitude right now.
Do this work in the face of the adversity of this barbaric and very racist white supremacist society.
Peace in Black Power, directed by Somatic and the House of Consciousness Street Team. Make no mistake about it, brothers and sisters, this is a House of Consciousness production. Somatic TV, Somatic Awakening of Consciousness, Part 1, family. Check it out. What qualifies you to speak on the various topics that you speak on, my brother?
Okay, peace and black power to the family out there. My name is Natural Tahuti, aka the son of Sekhmet, aka the seed of Kalamau, and other people know me as the bad boy of consciousness. Not bad because I'm bad, but just bad because I'm tough enough to do this job. You know, when you're doing this job, this is serious work here, man. We put our lives on the lives every day when we come out striving to teach our people, because not only are the oppressors against us, but our own people are against us. And if you know anything about slavery, you'll know that the house nigga, he loves the slave master so much, he will actually go out of his way to stop someone who is trying to achieve freedom. So I said that to say that our people are not only blind, deaf, and dumb, but they also become enemies because they would kill you just for teaching the truth, because they love the slave master so much.
Was established to separate and divide. And what I mean by separate and divide, I mean by when a person is called a Christian, or a person is called, you know, a Muslim, or a person is called a Buddha, or a person is dealing with Hinduism. This could be the same people, but it was put in the establishment or put in their minds that they were different, but they're the same people. Now, we must understand that the European, you know what I'm saying, deals with trickery. He deals with deception. He deals with tricks. And in this content, you know what I'm saying, the religion was brought about to make you think you were different than somebody else, but you're the same people. And we have to understand that in order for him to do what he needed to do, was separate the black race, he had to make them think like they were somebody else other than what they were.
The greatest expression and ideal of the universe is God, which so-called is a male principle. Language is very important in this discussion, because most people, when we say, or when I say that the black woman is God, the argument becomes, how can a woman be God when that is a male word? Woman has a word which is called goddess. But what most people don't understand is that they are speaking in a connotative linguistics.
We know that a Christian believes in Jesus. We know that a Muslim believes in Jesus. But the Muslims say that he's a prophet, and the Christians say that he's the God. So we have two different, you know, ideologies about what the word itself means, but yet and still we have one saying he was a prophet, and we have one saying that he was a God.
The Christians say he's the son of God.
Son of God. You know what I'm saying? You know, but we know and understand that when you bring about a division or separation amongst people, it causes confusion. Now you have some Muslim brothers that don't like Christians, and you have some Christians that don't like Muslims. You have some Buddhists that don't like, you know what I'm saying, Islamic people, and you have some Hindu people, you know what I'm saying, that don't like Islam. Now it was developed to cause separation.
When we look at the major documents of religion, when we look at the Quran, and when we look at the Old Testament, and I want to specify Old Testament as opposed to New Testament, because the New Testament was it's a fraud. So yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna get some lovely response to that. But when you look at those two documents, and surprisingly, I don't hear enough scholars discuss this, but those two documents, and this is why I make it my business to go into biology and hematology and really study the blood. Those two documents were chronicling bloodlines, okay? And in chronicling those bloodlines, it was chronicling the way those bloodlines lived and behaved. Now, they did not consider the way they lived and behaved religion. That is a new term that people who cannot trace themselves back to those ancient bloodlines have created to be able to tie themselves in to those bloodlines and usurp the resources and power and all of the institutions that belong to those bloodlines.
When we are talking about the black woman and her divinity, most of our brothers and women as well, because women fall a victim as well as the men who fall a victim, because we are living in a very racist, white supremacist, patriarchal system. Patriarchy, by what I mean by patriarchy is a system where the Godhead, the highest ideal of expression in the universe, is a man, which is God. And so therefore it gives privilege to men in the society. And even as a descendant of so-called African Americans who were enslaved in this country, as a man, even as a slave, men were still able to identify with the male principal slave master and still see themselves as the principal in a relationship between male and women. They don't have the understanding of the real value of the word or the denotative value of the word. This was done by social engineering and conditioning the people to believe that the word God is a masculine entity. But if you understand etymology, which all of your scholars, all of your upper level Freemasons and your scholastic theologians, they have this training. They learn what is called etymology. Etymology is the nucleus, is the study of the etymon. Etymon is the egg to language. In other words, it is the very origin. It gives the birth to a word, where the word comes from and how it was used when the people coined the term. And if we go into the etymology of the word God, it comes from the Germanic word got, and we take it and trace it all the way through pre-Germanic. We take it to Indo-European language, and we can trace the word all the way down to the Greek civilization, which is the word king. Then we come to find out that the word God is not a noun or a pronoun. It becomes what is called a transitional verb.
Now we have to deal with the Willie Lynch syndrome, whether it was real or not, but it was effective. Now when you take a black man and you tie his arms up, and you tie this arm up, and you stretch him out, and you allow his woman to actually see two horses, one horse on this side and one horse on this side, and then the slave master will come beat these horses, and you will see this black man being torn apart with this woman and her little kids watching this event go on. Now this would change the consciousness of anybody who would look at something that was so terrible, you know what I'm saying, as somebody being ripped apart by an animal or a horse, and their whole lungs and inner body will be on the floor, and this woman had to look at this. Now, what purpose was this? This purpose was so that woman would not see that black man as a strong, powerful force that he was at the time when he was brought over here, you know what I'm saying, to become a economical stability for the European. Now, when she seen this event happen on a constant basis, this would make her think that her man wasn't strong enough to protect her. This man wasn't strong enough to be there, you know what I'm saying, you know, when somebody would attack a situation, then she didn't have a strong enough man to actually do the things that he needed to do to be the father in that household. And we have to look at this as something that was done on purpose. Now, how does it affect us today?
Not even a tenth of the story of slavery has been told. The fact that, a brother just brought this up when I did a lecture down in Philadelphia at the Marcus Garvey building yesterday. Slavery was a child institution. Okay, it was about snatching babies. So that's one aspect, and I could go deep into that, but we don't have time for that. That's one aspect that hasn't been told. Another, slavery was a cannibalistic practice. Okay, they were eating people. In fact, you don't have to believe it. You can just do your own homework. The term bread, okay, the term bread applies to throats, necks, gullets. It comes from Old English, B-R-E-D-E. Do your own homework and look it up. They call it sweet bread. And that applies to eating flesh. There's a large homosexual component to slavery that has not been told, because the slave masters habitually, that's how, like for instance, when you look at the Django movie, that's how Samuel Jackson would get to be in the big house. Okay, that was one of the regular jobs that the house nigga performed. Okay, he you know, he took care of the master in more ways than one. So the slavery, the homosexual aspect has not been told, where the men were repeatedly raped over and over again. In fact, it was routine torture to rape the men in front of the women and let the women watch to see the complete overpowering.
There's something called post-traumatic slave syndrome. Now, what happened to that woman when she was taken out of that house up under the family unit, and she was taken off somewhere to become a slave, prostitute, or do things that she didn't want to do, and that man had no power to stop that activity from happening, another thing happened to her. She kept losing respect, from the horses to her being snatched up without this man having no power to stop this. Now, what she did, she looked at that European as some kind of force and power. Something that, you know what I'm saying, she could rely on. Something that she could depend on. It's the same way today, when you have the welfare center taking care of a family. If these women and children do not get welfare, and they have no man in the environment to take care of them, then she's going to rely on that European system to maintain her existence. Now, this was done by design. We know that most black men have ability, they have power. They have the so-called educational system of this European that they have went to college for, or high school, or junior high school, you know what I'm saying, and developed a certain kind of insight on what they would use to get a job.
Our people were everywhere on this planet. Everywhere on this planet. Even if you want to take something as small as the Marines. And that might be seemingly unrelated, but I'm going to show you why it is related. The Marines song, their anthem of conquering, is from Montezuma, which is the Americas, to the shores of Tripoli. So that means that even up to a few hundred years ago, the Black dynasty, and I want to say black so that we understand I'm talking about melanated people. Maybe I should say the melanated dynasty was still global. And if you understand linguistics, then you understand what a suffix is. You understand what a prefix is. The suffix -ine means to be like, okay? So when you look at the Moorines, they were trained to be like the Moors so that they could conquer them, because they didn't know how to navigate. They didn't have any science of the boats. In fact, any of the earlier documentation that they have of sailing this place and that place, they also have documentation of having 1 or 2 melanated beings on their ship to guide them.
When you begin to have a thorough knowledge of yourself and cultural continuity, you will begin to support those that look like you. We don't support those that look like us because we are suffering from post-slavery syndrome. We are suffering from a deep degree of self-hatred. So we can't see ourselves going down to Mr. Johnson's store and buying black products. We don't see buying black products as good for us because we are caught up in Europeanism. I think we also need to develop EA Anonymous, European Anonymous, because we are addicted to Europeanism because of the fact we live here in America, and the media, which is the biggest tool that they use to control the mind. Whatever comes in the media, if you want to see what's going on with the kids, watch BET, watch MTV. Look and see what the rappers and the entertainers are wearing. See, entertainment is just not entertainment. They are using that to shape and mold the minds of the people. So this is why I say, without going too long into it, that we need a thorough knowledge of ourselves and cultural continuity. We need to begin to feel good about our ancestors so that we can begin to feel good about ourselves.
I'm a youth counselor, trained. I'm also trained in parenting, giving parents the insight on how to be a proper parent. Most of these parents in the household haven't been taught what it is to be responsible, what it is to raise children. You know what I'm saying? It takes an art and a skill to raise children and know what to do and what not to do.
What kind of art does it take to raise a child?
You have to first love yourself. You have to first have a relationship with this physical body. You have to first have a relationship with this spirit. You have to first have a relationship with this soul. See, because it all starts with you. If you was not taught the exact things that you're supposed to do with a child, you know what I'm saying, when you were a child, you didn't see it, then how can you actually profess or teach anybody something that you wasn't taught yourself? Now this is the miseducation of the black child, the black woman, and the black man. Remember, they watch soap operas, All My Children, The Young and the Restless, One Life to Live. And what they did with these different, you know what I'm saying, things, Dallas, that's coming back on TV now. You know what I'm saying? What they're doing, they're emulating what they're seeing off the TV. You know what I'm saying? On what it is to be a family. You know what I'm saying? That is a hoax. That is something that is not true. We are looking at them as examples, and these are the same people that kill us and murder us, you know what I'm saying, cause us to be rapists, cause us to be murderers. We sell drugs to one another, you know what I'm saying, we go on the street and we pull our guns and we shoot each other's head off without no remorse. You know what I'm saying, we have been taught to hate ourselves. So I think that that has to be put back in its proper order. I think that black people have to realize and understand that they have an enemy, and the enemy is within them. And if they don't solve that problem inside themselves, then there's no way they can solve the problem inside the household, because you have to teach a child by example. A child has to see you, not only what you say, but they have to see it in action. If they don't see a man and a woman in the household, how's that a balance? It affects both sexist. If a woman or a little girl doesn't see a man having a relationship with her mother, then how can she emulate something that she's never seen? So what happens is this: she gets a boyfriend, you know what I'm saying, and she looks at the boyfriend as a man, you know what I'm saying, that she always needed in her life, and she starts to rely on him. She starts to look at him as the daddy that she never had. You know what I'm saying? So this is a very good, powerful force that was utilized, you know what I'm saying, by that European to change us against one another.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful, my brother. That's what I'm talking about.
The kidnap of the children, the torture of the children, the eating of the children, you know, and these things still go on. This is why they will offer you to eat your own, you know, your own, what was that we were just talking about? The when you have your the placenta. You know, this is why they will offer you to eat your own placenta right on the delivery table. This is a cannibal society. So all of these cannibal practices are still in play. This is why you have the largest food companies in America taking the kidney cells of aborted babies and adding them to food as flavoring. Okay, only a cannibal would think that that is only a cannibal would be enticed by the flavoring of flesh. Okay, especially to put it in soda, Pepsi products, even going as far as putting aborted baby fetal cells into Gerber products which are being fed to babies. So you don't have to believe Minister Inky, you can do your own homework. The cannibalism, the homosexuality, the torture, the raping of the men, all of these things that are still going on, that are part of these institutions, that are still a part of the institution of slavery, because we know that the statistics show that 8 out of 10 men that are in prison for over 10 years, I mean, it gets a little crazy. So and that's a big part of this country's economy, missing a gross domestic product per se. What we export as our gross domestic product, A is prison labor and B is debt, which are both two sides to slavery. So I mean, you can look in the law books. Slavery was abolished except for the convicted felons. So I mean, all we got to do is entrance the people and get them to commit more crimes. We can get more felons and we can get more slaves. So we have to, beyond the shadow of a doubt, keep ringing the bell, and we have to understand that human nature, whether we all want to admit it or not, okay, and I'm talking directly to you, okay, I'm talking directly to you. We all have a part of us that we are not going to share with everyone else. We all have a part of us that we keep secret. So, how that's relevant to the topic at hand, even the most grotesque pictures about slavery, when we see them standing around in the circle smiling while they cutting off the testicles or burning the slaves, and all of the lovely pictures that you can see at the House of Consciousness on 125th Street, all of those pictures, 90% of those pictures, I'll leave a little bit of room, were released by Europeans. So you have to use your good common sense and say to yourself, if that's what they're willing to show me, what are they still hiding? What are they still hiding?
What are they still hiding?